Welcome back to VBC News, folks. I'm your host, Joey Sweet, with my co-host,
Elizabeth Tangy, bringing you the greatest and the latest news.
Now, the Biden administration has chosen to use the process of budget reconciliation. What exactly does this mean? It means that there can be a 50-50 vote in the Senate, circumventing the filibuster, which would mean there's a 60-40 vote to pass any piece of massive economic legislation. Now, what exactly does this mean for Americans, Ms. Taney?
This means that millions of Americans will be receiving $1,400 from the American government. Those who need it and those who don't. Now, Mr. Sweet, what concerns does this bring?
Well, there are concerns that there is already still some money left over from the stimulus checks, namely several $billion, some of which will go to school districts or has not yet gone to school districts. Another concern, economically speaking, was the flooding of the economy with trillions of dollars. Now, there's some other pros to this, though. It means that the speed and grace in which this is done will enable the Americans who are truly struggling to get the money that they need quickly and efficiently.
Friendly reminder, folks, it is Black History Month, and there's no better time to become informed.
Stay safe.
Stay healthy,
And we'll see you next time on VBC News.
Today, we're asking some real students some real questions. First off, which do you think is better in terms of entertainment, YouTube or TV?
TV, there's more options.
Okay.
I think YouTube because you kind of have an endless supply of stuff you can watch.
Okay. What are some alternate phrases for candy hearts?
I don't know, maybe stuff that's like not just about love, like you can have an actual interesting conversation, like, I don't know, philosophical things.
I think it would be funny to have one that says, I hate you or I want to punch you to someone who you don't like.
Okay, fair enough. What is the best kind of pet to own and why?
A dog, because you could just like play with it and it could just be there for you whenever.
Okay.
The best kind of pet is a betta fish. It's super easy. You don't have to do a lot of work. Although you do have to keep it at a 5-gallon and do water changes once a week.
All right, looks like we got a little more information there.
What improvements do you think could be made to distance learning?
I feel like distance learning could be a lot easier if there were more people in hybrid together, like there were more people on Zoom that are in the same cohort and more people in person that are in the same cohort, because it's really difficult to learn when your teachers are shifting back and forth to each other.
So, do you think distance learning is going to affect our generation's future?
I think so. I think this has really changed how people perceive school in general. Like, I think people will take in-person school a lot more, they'll be more grateful for it. All of this Zoom stuff has really, frankly, sucked.
So, what is the biggest challenge that you think students are facing during distance learning?
I think the biggest challenge that people are facing is the distractions from home. Like when you're trying to do your homework and there's people buggering you and coming into your room and telling you that you have other things that you need to be doing because they think that just because you're home that you need to be doing other things because you aren't at school.
It is, I can tell that the teachers are having a hard time. It's hard to focus on two things at once, especially with in-person people and the online people.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hard for them.
What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run?
Does it sink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrup sweet?
Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode?
To celebrate Black History Month, the VBC would like to give thanks to the gifted Black artists whose brilliant contributions to the vast world of art have influenced our work and inspired us to strive for diversity, equality, and perspectives from people who historically haven't been given a chance to speak. Thank you for your courage and drive to make great art. So, older generations have been calling younger generations lazy. Do you think that is founded?
Yeah, the jobs aren't as physically demanding. You could be going and flipping burgers at McDonald's, and that's a lot easier than building a railroad.
That's true. Generally speaking, however, the quality of living goes up from generation to generation, and it's followed that pattern historically. over and over again, and the previous generation will always see the more current generation as lazy, because as we develop, as we mechanize, as we industrialize further, and as we build more technology, jobs will get easier.
Yes, but that's also physical labor. Let's take into account mental labor and like mental strenuous.
We actually have it easier mentally. We get instant gratification. We can just go on Amazon and get something delivered in like 2 days shipping.
Yes, but there's also the flip side of the coin, which is saying that because of that, our mental health has gotten quite a bit worse because we're constantly looking for like the next fix. I'd also like to bring up the illusion that media kind of brings into like older generations, like the stereotypical trope of people, of like teenagers always being on their phones. Like, and you see a lot of like the teenage character is always just moody and always on their phone.
That is true. When you look on your phone, you're not going outside, you're not playing, you're not like learning an instrument or learning a skill. So in that regard, instead of like doing that kind of stuff, we're on our phones. Doesn't that make us more lazy?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there.
So is social media, like contacting people through social media, is it lazier than having just a normal conversation, or is it just new, something new, and that older generations just haven't gotten used to?
That actually reminds me, in history class, I remember one of the really old Greek philosophers hated books because it was easier than memorizing. But look at us now. The older generation is saying, hey, books are better than social media. But when books were first invented, the old Greek philosophers were like, hey, memorizing by talking is better than books.
Yeah, I can't remember who exactly you're talking about. He was talking about how books and writing would diminish the human ability to memorize, and I think that certainly has come into play. But then again, in his time, there were still most of the population didn't need to have that intense amount of memorization. And yes, social media, we think we can substitute that human interaction for that technological one, and it's already proven more than well enough that technological interaction is simply not enough if you're a human being. And it is easier. That's why we tend to replace the technological interaction with the human one.
Yes, but also I think a lot of younger people don't necessarily replace human interaction, except of course during the coronavirus, replace human interaction with online interaction. They just simply add to it. Like, for example, you can't make a friend like from, I don't know, Japan or somewhere like even across like the country or in a different state. You can't necessarily communicate with them, and you'd never necessarily know that they were out there unless you were communicating with them through social media.
This mental, intellectual gain we have made is massive. It's exponential, and it's constantly adapting, and it's constantly changing. This perhaps could outweigh the social laziness and the physical laziness that we have occurred, not exactly as our fault, but actually as the previous generation's fault, in saying their advancements have made us this lazy. So all in the end, they are trying to blame us for a problem that they have created. That intellectual growth actually could outweigh the growth we are missing in some of these physical aspects and maybe in some of these social aspects.
Even though we're lazy, we could go do and learn other things and other skills. Like with social media, you could do like social media marketing, which is improving other people's quality of lives by having good content. Yeah, you make a good point.